Good morning, everyone. In this video, I would like to discuss Tinton Abbey by William Wordsworth, its summary and analysis. The poem, lines composed a few miles above Tinton Abbey, is generally known as the Tinton Abbey, written in 1798 by the father of Romanticism, William Wordsworth. Tinton Abbey is one of the triumphs of Wordsworth's genius. It may be called a condensed spiritual autobiography of the poet. It deals with the subjective experiences of the poet. It traces the growth of his mind through different periods of his life. Nature and its influence on the poet in his various stages forms the main theme of the poem. The poem deals with the influence of nature on the boy, the youth, the growing youth and the man. The poet has expressed his tender feelings towards nature. William Wordsworth is generally known as a worshipper of nature. He has specially recounted his poetical idea of Tintern Abbey, where he had gone first time in 1793 when he was 23. Now he visits that place for a second time when he turns 28 in 1798. Wordsworth has expressed his intense faith in nature. This is Wordsworth's realization of God in nature. He got sensuous delight implies gratification of the senses for the sake of aesthetic pleasure. The sensuous delight of great music. Sensual tends to imply the gratification of the senses or indulgence of physical appetites as ends in themselves. Anything that is pleasing to the senses can be called sensuous. The feel of a soft cashmere sweater, cashmere sweater on your skin, the taste of dark chocolate, even the smell of your favorite person, all of these can be sensuous experiences. In it is in all it takes to him. Tinton Abbey impressed him most when he had first visited this place. He has again come to the same place where there are lofty cliffs. Cliffs means you can understand it as a sharp mountainside, sharp mountain. Well, cliff is a platform near ocean. It means a raised platform with a sharp ending, which eventually merges into the ocean. The plots of cottage grounds, orchards, groves, and copses. Copses means trees. He is glad to see again hedgerows, spotty wood, pastoral farms, and green doors. This lonely place, the bank of the river, and rolling waters from mountain springs present a beautiful panoramic light. The solitary place reminds the poet of a vagrant dweller, one who has no established residence and wanders idly from place to place, without lawful or visible means of support. This poem is divided in 5 sections. The first section establishes the setting for meditation, but it emphasizes the passage of time. 5 years have passed, 5 summers, 5 long winters. As in winter, nothing seems to change, so it is so long. It seems to be that way for the poet. But when the poet is back to this place of natural beauty and serenity, it is still essentially the same. This poem opens with a slow, dragging rhythm and repetition of the word 5, all designed to emphasize the weight of time which has separated the poet from the scenery. After 5 years, he's returning back to the same place, to the same lap of nature. The following lines develop a clear visual picture of the scene. The view presented is a band of wilderness and order. He can see the entirely natural cliffs and waterfalls. He can see hedges around the fields of the people, and he can see the wreaths of smoke probably coming from some hermit making fire in their cave hermitages. These images evoke not only a pure nature as one might expect, they evoke a life of the common people in harmony with the nature. The second section begins with the meditation. The poet now realizes that these beauteous forms have always been with him, deep seated in his mind, wherever he went. This vision has been felt in the blood, felt along the heart. That is, it has affected his whole being. They were not absent from his mind like from the mind of a man born blind. They were not absent from his mind like from the mind of a man born blind. In hours of weariness, frustration, and anxiety, these things of nature used to make him feel sweet sensations in his very blood, and he used to feel it at the level of impulse, that is the heart, rather than in his waking consciousness and through reasoning. From this point onwards, Wordsworth begins to consider the sublime of nature, and his mystical awareness becomes clear. Wordsworth's idea was that human beings are naturally uncorrupted. The poet studies nature with open eyes and imaginative mind. He has been the lover of nature from he has been the lover of nature, and this love of nature forms the core of his heart, and with a purer mind he feels a sensation of love for nature in his very blood. He feels high pleasure and deep power of joy in natural objects. The beating of his heart are full of fire of nature's love. He concentrates attention to Sylvan Bay, a majestic and waltzing river. He is reminded of the pictures of past visits and ponders over his future years. On his first visit to this place, he bounded over the mountains by the sides of a deep river and lovely streams. In the past, the soundings haunted him like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain, and the deep and gloomy wood were then to him like an appetite. But the time is gone now. In nature, he finds the sad music of humanity. The first section contains a kind of doubt. The poet is probably reflecting the reader's possible doubts so that he can go to justify how he is right and what he means. He doubts for just a moment whether this thought about the influence of nature is vain. But he can't go on, he exclaims. Yet, oh, how often, amid the joyless daylight, fretful and unprofitable fear of the world, have I turned to thee, that is the nature, for inspiration and peace of mind. He thinks the Sylvan Void, that is the river, for the everlasting influence it has imprinted on his mind. His spirit has very often turned to this river for inspiration when he was losing the peace of mind or the path and meaning of life. The river has become the symbol of spirituality. Though the poet has been serious and perplexed in the first stanza, the nature gives him courage and spirit enough to stand there with a sense of delight and pleasure. This is so typical of Wordsworth that it seems he can't write poetry without recounting his personal experiences, especially those of his childhood. As he relates childhood to divinity, He also begins from the earliest of his days. It was first the coarse pleasure in his boyish days, which has all gone by now. That time is past, and all its aching joys are no more, and its dizziness ruptures. But the poet doesn't mourn for them. He doesn't even grumble about their losses. Clearly, he has gained something in return. Other gifts has followed. For such loss, for I have learned to look on nature not as in the hour not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still sad music of humanity. This very point is the very essence of the poem Tintern Abbey. Please be mindful of this point. This is a philosophic statement about maturing, about the development of personality and the poetic or philosophic mind as well. So now the poet is able to feel a joy of elevated thoughts, a sense of sublime, and far more deeply infused. He feels a sense of sublime and the working of a supreme power in the light of the setting sun, in round oceans and in the blue sky. He is of opinion that a mountain and a spirit impel all thinking things. He is of opinion that a motion and a spirit impel all thinking things. A motion and a spirit. Therefore, Wordsworth claims that he is a lover of the meadows and of all which he sees from his green earth. Nature is a nurse, a guide, and a guardian of his heart and soul. Remember, nature is a nurse, a guide, and a guardian. Nature cures him, nature nurtures him, nature guides him, and nature protects him, both his heart and soul. The poet comes to one important conclusion. For all the formative influences, he is now consciously in love with the nature. He has become a thoughtful lover of the meadows, the woods, and the mountains. Though his ears and eyes seem to create other half of all these sensations, nature is actually source of these sublime thoughts. Nature is the actual source of these sublime thoughts. The fifth and the last stanza continues with the same medication, from where the poet addresses his younger sister, Dorothy, who visited alongside him the Tintern Abbey in 1798, whom he blesses and gives advice about what he has learned. He says that he hears the voice of his youth, his own youth, when he hears her speak, the language of his former heart. It means that what Dorothy is speaking right now, William Wordsworth said the same things during his youth. He can also read my former pleasure in the soothing light of the wild eye. He is excited to look at his own youthful image in her. He says that nature has never betrayed his heart, and that is why they have been living from joy to joy. Nature can impress the mind with their quietness and beauty, and feed its lofty thoughts that no evil tongues of the human society can corrupt their hearts with any amount of contact with it. The poem then begins to address the motion in his reverie and to ask the nature to bestow his sister with their blessings. Let moon shine on their solitary walk, and let the mountain winds blow this breeze on her. When the present youthful ecstasies are over, as they did with him, let her mind become the palace of lovely forms and thoughts about the nature, so that she can enjoy and understand life and overcome the vexations of living in a harsh human society. The conclusion to the poem takes us almost cynically back to a physical view of the steep woods, lofty cliffs, and green pastoral landscapes in which the of the poem is happening. Meditation of the poem is happening. The poem has expressed his honest and natural feelings to nature's superiority. This language is so simple and lucid that one is not tired of reading it again and again. The sweetness of style touches the heart of a reader. The medium of this poem is neither ballad nor lyric, but an elevated blank verse. The blank verse that is used in it is low toned, familiar, and moves with sureness, sureness, and inevitable ease. It has quiet pearls suggestive of central peace, which is felt in all its great poetry. This is the beauty of Wordsworth language. Thank you. That's it for this video. Now let me show you a picture of the Tintern Abbey. Look, this old structure. This is the Tintern Abbey. Abbey means a place where monks and nuns reside and pray. Now this is the Tintern Abbey. It is almost in ruins right now. Thank you. That's all.